Hello everyone, welcome back to Nanbai. This is me Ankita, and in today's video we are going to be making eclairs. Doesn't that look great? So in this video today we are going to be making choux pastry, pastry cream and a chocolate glaze to glaze these eclairs. So talking a little bit about the choux pastry, it is slightly different from the other pastries that we make. So one of the unique characteristics of a choux pastry is that it is hollow from the inside and crisp on the outside. Another characteristic of a choux pastry is that we cook it twice. That is, first we cook it on gas, and then once the batter / dough is ready, we pipe it and we bake it. Now, the cooking and the baking process is what gives it its unique hollow structure, and that's where the filling goes basically. Another thing I would like to mention here is that you will see in a lot of recipes they say that you bake the choux pastry first at a certain really high temperature for about a few minutes and then bring the temperature down. Now that is a good way of doing it. What I have noticed is when I try to do that, my choux pastry kind of cracks from the top. So I tried a few different recipes and then I came to this conclusion that usually when I bake it at one temperature for a longer period of time, I get a better result. They don't crack from the top, it gets the same color, it gets the same structure. So I have preheated my oven to a 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is also 190 degrees Celsius, and for the first 30-35 minutes, I would probably not open the oven when the choux pastry is inside. Reason being, because that initial burst of heat, the heat that is going into the choux pastry is what is going to give it its rise. If you open the oven to check or to take a look, what happens is the temperature difference happens and then they deflate. So it won't be as hollow and they will not be as tall. So this is very, very important that when you put choux pastry in the oven, try not to open the oven, just look from the outside to check if it's done or not. But don't worry, it won't be done in 35 minutes, it's going to take much longer than that. So let's start making the choux pastry, and then we'll make the pastry cream and then the glaze and assemble these cute little treats. How do we make the first part of this dough / batter? Because it's not really a dough, it's not really a runny batter. You have to get this right. That will also decide the texture of your choux pastry, like how crisp it is or how soggy it is, the hollowness on the inside. So measuring the ingredients carefully is a must. If you can help it, try to measure it in grams, that would be great. If not, I am going to mention the equivalent cups and tablespoons, teaspoons in the description. Please do check that out. But if you can help it, it would be nice if you could measure it in grams. Okay, so I have a pan here in which first I am going to add some water. To that, I'm going to add some salt. It's very little salt. And then some sugar. In goes that. And then I have some unsalted butter. So I've just cut it so it melts quickly. So I've cut this in big chunks. Okay. Now we're going to start heating this up on fire, like on gas, and once the butter is melted, everything is mixed in and the water starts coming to a boil. At that point, I'm going to add all-purpose flour to that. And once I'm done adding this all-purpose flour, I will keep cooking it till it becomes a big ball of dough, and a little bit of it starts sticking to the bottom of the pan. Not like just get stuck to the bottom of the pan, but just a little bit starts getting stuck. That means it is done. That means it's dry enough to take it off the heat. So I'm going to show you that while I'm cooking this on the gas. So let's go and start cooking our choux pastry. I'm going to keep the pot on medium or medium-high heat throughout the process. Also, I'll be stirring this occasionally as and when needed. The butter has now completely melted. As you can see, the bubbles have started to form on the side, which means the water is about to come to a boil. I'm now going to add all the flour at once. With a wooden spoon, I'm going to stir the mixture vigorously so that it is homogeneous. There's quite a lot of arm strength. Now the batter is sticking to the bottom and the sides of the pan. It is now time to take the pot off the heat. Okay, now I've taken this off the heat. It is cooked. It had started to stick at the bottom. So immediately I'm going to move this to the bowl of the stand mixer. Now you could just put the eggs in here and do it by hand, but that does require a lot of strength, and sometimes you end up adding more eggs or less eggs. So I like to use stand mixer for this because then I'm just sure that I'm adding the correct amount of eggs to it. So I'm going to start beating this up with a paddle attachment just till the time the steam, like it's not too hot, because what will happen is if I add the eggs right now, the eggs will get cooked, they get scrambled because this is very, very hot. So I'm going to beat this for about a couple of minutes to release all the heat, and then slowly I'm going to start adding the eggs to this. The mixture is now cool enough that we can start adding the eggs. Now we're going to add the eggs one at a time. Reason being, if we add all the eggs in one go, the mixture might get a little runny. We have to be very, very careful about the consistency of the mixture. So we're going to slowly add the eggs and keep checking for the right consistency. At this point, I have one egg left, so I'm just going to check the consistency before I add the last one. So we are almost there, but not quite there yet. So I will add that last egg and mix it up. Also, do not forget to scrape your bowl every now and again as needed. Eggs have now gone in, and as you can see, the mixture is looking great. It is not too thick and it is not too runny. It's the perfect consistency to pipe. Now, how do you tell that the mixture is the right consistency? You dip your spatula into the mixture, lift it up, and it should form a V, just like this. That does not slip off the spatula. The mixture is now ready to pipe. So, the consistency that we are looking for is when you pick up this spatula, it should form a V like this. Now this is, and see, it's not falling down, it's staying there, but it is forming this V. This is the consistency that we are looking for. If you haven't reached there, you can add more eggs. Look at this. This is what we are looking for. Beautiful. Now, I added 5 eggs to this. Now the size of eggs can vary depending on where you are, and maybe each egg every time is a different weight. So for me, I used 5 eggs. Your choux might just get done before 5 eggs, or maybe a little more than 5 eggs. So just make sure, add the eggs till the time you reach this V consistency, and once you are there, you can stop. It can even happen after 4 eggs, or it can maybe take an extra egg. So be careful about that, and if you get this V, your pastry is ready to pipe. Now here I have a piping bag in which I have put this star tip here. Now you can even use a plain round tip or an open star tip, it doesn't matter really. If you're using a round tip, if you like it like that, of course, why not? I like it with a little bit with those ridges, so I'm just using this. But you can use any pipe, and I'm using a medium-sized piping tip here. It's not too big and it's not too small. if I was being precise, then this is an ECO 866 that I'm using to pipe my choux, and you can use round or but a medium sized one, not too small, not too big, unless and until you're making mini choux or something like that. So that's a different thing. But for this, I am using a medium sized one. Okay, so I have my piping bag ready, and I am going to pour this batter into the piping bag. Maybe not fill up all of it. I'll just maybe fill the piping bag halfway through. Push it down. We don't want any air bubbles in between. So before you will bring it right to the tip here, just press it. So if there's any air bubble, you want to release that. And then just push it. And tightly roll this up. And here you have your piping bag ready. So for piping, how I've prepared my sheet pan, I just have a piece of parchment on top of the tray, and underneath I have made a little stencil here. So I made these lines on a parchment. If you want, you can just turn it around and then pipe it on that, but I'm going to use the stencil for another tray. So I'm going to keep this one underneath and another parchment on top, because then I can see the lines. And so then all the eclairs are the same size. So, I mean, you can eyeball it, definitely, why not? But, I would like them to be, almost equal in size. So I have the stencil, and that's it. We are ready to pipe. So I'm done piping the choux. One last thing before we put it in the oven. I like to egg wash the choux before I bake them. It gives it a nice shine and a much deeper color. And you see these little pointy things. If you want, you can wet your finger a little bit and just press them down like that, just like this. So they will kind of settle down. That's it. And for egg wash, I have a couple eggs here, to which I'm going to add a pinch of salt. Just whisk it up. Now, some people for egg wash like to use whole eggs, or just egg whites, or just egg yolks. Some people add water to the egg wash. Some people add milk to the egg wash. I just use plain egg and water with a pinch of salt in it. So that is it. Keep that on the side. I have a pastry brush with me, and I'm just going to take this egg wash and gently, we're not flooding it with egg, just a little bit, and gently. That is egg washed, and I'm going to put this in the oven. I'll start with 35 minutes and not open the oven at all, and then I'll see how long it takes. So while the choux is baking in the oven, we can prepare the pastry cream in the meantime. Pastry cream is very, very easy. It's basically, we are making a kind of a custard which we're going to cook to a certain level, so when it becomes thick and nice, it's a beautiful shiny pastry cream. So I have a big bowl here. I have 5 egg yolks. Put these 5 egg yolks in. Then some granulated sugar. Put this in. Some little bit of salt. Just a pinch. And cornstarch. Now you will find recipes that will have maybe eggs and yolks both. Some have only yolks. The reason I like it with yolks, it makes a much richer pastry cream. And I am going to whisk this up. So it's going to look weird once you start whisking it, but if you keep whisking it, it's going to be fine. It'll change color. It'll turn pale. So just mix, mix, mix. So basically when you mix it, it will look like this, slightly pale. And what I have here is some cream and milk. Now again, you will find some recipes which use only milk. I like to use milk and cream half and half, like 1:1 ratio, both of them, because again cream will give it that nice richness. So what I did was I heated this milk up just till it was about to boil. So it's not boiling. You have to take it off the heat before it starts to boil. So when you see the bubbles on the side is when you take it off the heat. So I have some heated milk and cream, and I'm slowly going to add this hot milk and cream mixture to this egg yolk mixture slowly. What we're doing is we are tempering the eggs. That is, see, this is either room temperature or slightly cooler. This is hot. Now if you add these egg yolks to the milk, hot milk, they will scramble up, they'll get cooked. So we slowly, like little bit milk first, whisk. This is going to balance the temperature difference between these two things. So we are tempering the egg yolks here, which is very important. Now you see how smooth it is. You will not see any lump. Then again, add a little bit more. Keep whisking to prevent it from cooking. And then a little more. Then slowly, slowly, slowly you can add all of it. Okay. And sometimes there can be some thick mixture sitting at the bottom. So scrape, scrape. Now you see there's nothing in the bottom. That means this was tempered properly. Nothing at all. And there are no egg yolk scrambled pieces either, which means that this is looking good. So one final whisk. And I'm going to put this back into this pan, because now we're going to cook it on heat till it becomes into a thick custard looking thing. So back into the pan, and I'm going to take this over the stove and start cooking this. So we're going to cook this on medium heat because the quantity is really, really small, and constantly stir this because we don't want any of this to burn, stick at the bottom. This does burn very easily. Also, once it starts to once it starts changing the texture, that is, it starts thickening up, we change from a spatula to a whisk so that there are no lumps in it. Now as you can see, it is getting these lumps in the bottom. That means it is starting to thicken up. So at this point, I'm going to just scrape the sides of this pan and then change to a whisk so that we have a lump-free pastry cream. Now, how do you check if it's done or not? If you see bubbles on the top, if you see a couple bubbles on the top, that means it is done cooking. So I do not see a bubble just yet, so I'm going to keep going. We don't want to overcook the pastry cream because then it's going to just not be a pleasant sight. Now I'll check again for the bubbles. There, I saw one. And if you can see this moving, the center is kind of bubbling a little bit. So I am actually done. I'm going to take it off the heat right away before the pastry cream gets overcooked. So I've taken this off the heat and it is looking nice and smooth. Now, so that I can stop the cooking process, because I don't want it to keep cooking, I am going to take this out in another bowl. Now see, this is important, the pan is hot. Even a minute or two of extra cooking can ruin the pastry cream. So you know, the reason we cook pastry cream is because of course we want the yolks to cook. Nobody wants to eat raw yolks, right? And also we are cooking away the cornstarch. As we all know, when you cook cornstarch, it's how you get the thickness from it. So we are also cooking the cornstarch along with the egg yolks. So the combination of that cooking is what gives us the nice, beautiful texture of a pastry cream. So this is looking great. Now, if you want, you can strain it at this point if you think your pastry cream might have lumps, but it's looking great. So I'm not going to strain it. And now I have some cubed butter here, and this is not cold, this is not at room temperature, it's just been sitting out for like 10 minutes. So butter, in it goes. Reason I've cut it in cubes because then all the pieces will melt at the same time and we have a nice, smooth, beautiful pastry cream. And here, whisk as much as you can. Reason being, because if you don't, the butter kind of separates from the pastry cream and it's not a pleasant sight. So you have to mix it so it all comes together. The butter will also give the extra richness to the pastry cream, which is amazing. Now if you can see, look at this. Look at this beautiful shiny pastry cream here. So one last thing, I'm going to add some vanilla bean paste. Now I like bean paste because it has these little dots and they look very pretty in a pastry cream. Honestly, I have no measurement for the vanilla. Just add as much vanilla as you like. So because this is a vanilla pastry cream, so I'm going to add till it tastes like vanilla basically. There we go. And whisk this in. Oh, it smells amazing. There. That is it. We have a nice, beautiful, silky smooth pastry cream ready. You can see this is absolutely gorgeous. Does not need straining at all. It's a very, very nice texture. And those vanilla dots in this are looking great. Now this is beautiful. I'm going to let this come at room temperature, and before, of course, we're going to use it. Before we use it, it has to come at room temperature. So I'm going to use a cling wrap and cover it and let it cool at room temperature. Now how am I going to put the cling wrap? Touching the surface of the pastry cream, because we don't want a skin to form on the top. So I'm going to let this cool down, check the choux if it's done or not, and then we'll move forward from there. So these are out of the oven and they took about 65 minutes. Yes, it did take a pretty long time because these are home ovens. They are not as strong as commercial ovens. So it is going to take a little long. Be patient, and if you can help it, try not to open the oven for the first 45 minutes at least. That's going to make a huge difference. Otherwise this will deflate. Now they look great. They're puffed up nicely and they are fairly even. And if you can see the color, it's hot, but I guess I can hold one of them. So this is the color we're going for. If you want lighter, you can. Darker, of course. With pastry, what I always say is you shouldn't shy away from going a little dark on the color. Trust me, it always tastes better. So I'm going to let this cool down and then we'll start filling them up. Hopefully the pastry cream would have cooled by now. Of course, it's been a while. These are cool now, and just so, because I want to check the hollowness, one is you tap it, you can hear it, it's hollow, but we can always cut one of them and take a look. So I picked up a slightly non-good looking one and I'm going to cut it right in the center and let's see how hollow it is. Oh, did you hear the crunch? Beautiful. Now look at this, the hollowness. Now that is what we're looking for. This is what we're going to be filling up with delicious pastry cream. So this is looking perfect. Okay. So now there are two ways of filling up choux pastry. One is you can slice it from the center and you can fill it up, or you can poke holes in the bottom and then fill it up. So I like to poke holes in the choux pastry and fill them up somehow because it gets more filling in it when you poke holes. And with these homemade ones, poking holes always works better, because there's never going to be like perfect looking choux. So it just works better when you just poke holes and fill it up, just better that way. So I'm using one of these kind of tips, these long ones. This is especially for choux pastry. If you don't have one of these, you could take a pointy end of a knife, or you could take just a small round tip. But then just remember, this has to be sharp, because you don't want to crack and break the choux. So I'm using this. The good part about this is that you see the tapered end, that helps me poke holes without cracking or breaking the choux pastry. So I'm going to poke holes in all of them, and then I have some pastry cream in the piping bag that we made earlier, and it is nice and cool, and we are going to put this inside the choux pastry. So let's make holes in one of these. This is let's take a nicer one. Let's say, now this is the top part, of course you can see the ridges, and the bottom part, which is going to be flat like this and puffed up, you gently poke holes like this, and then the second one and the third one. Now you can just poke 2 holes or one in the center. But this way, when I'm piping in, I'm just going to make sure that it is very nicely and distributed everywhere. So I'm going to poke all of these, and then we are going to start filling it up. Okay, so I've poked holes in all the choux, and I'm going to start filling this up now. So just hold your piping bag, take one of these, start from the corner hole or the center, doesn't really matter. Just push it down, and the center one, and see, it's already coming out from here, which means we have filled this up. You will also feel the weight difference in the choux, because it's hollow when you fill it up with pastry cream. So I can feel it has gotten heavier, and now it's like coming out from the holes, which means it is full. And all this extra stuff that's popping out, just wipe it down with a butter knife or a spatula, and that's it. That's how you fill your choux. So I'm going to start filling all these up. We can take a look at another one. And that's it. So we're just going to fill all of these, and then we prepare the glaze. Okay, so they are all filled up and they're nicely stuffed with pastry cream. That's amazing. And now let's quickly prepare the glaze, and then we will glaze these beauties. The glaze that we are making for the eclairs is really easy. All we have is 1 part chocolate and 1 part heavy cream. The cream I've already heated up. I have not boiled it. We're making a kind of a ganache. So I've not heated up. It wasn't boiling, like boiling. So it's just hot cream and partially melted chocolate, which I just melted in the microwave. So it's partially melted chocolate and very hot cream. I'm going to pour this over the chocolate like that, and then let it just sit for 10-15 seconds, because it's not a very big quantity, so it will melt right away. And also because the chocolate is partially melted, so this should happen quickly. So I'm just going to give it a few seconds, and then we're going to start whisking it up. So it's been around 30 seconds, and I'm just going to start mixing this. Now, like I always say for the ganache, we are just emulsifying the cream and the chocolate. We are not trying to incorporate any air. When you're making a ganache and air gets incorporated during this process, you will have a broken ganache, and trust me, that is not a pleasant sight. But if suppose you're making a ganache and you do get a broken one, how do you save it? You just add a little bit more of hot cream and mix it up gently, and your ganache should be fine. But if you're doing this correctly, then it's going to be okay. So we're just mixing this up. The reason, like I said, we use the whisk is to emulsify it. You could do this with a spatula, but for a shinier, smoother result, I would recommend using a whisk carefully. And just scrape the bowl once. This is a basic ganache. The thing is, usually if you see the eclairs, the top is kind of shiny. So how do we get that? To this ganache, what I'm going to add is some honey. Now you can add corn syrup I don't have corn syrup at home, so I'm just adding honey. Honey is more easily available at home, right? So for this much quantity, it's about half a tablespoon of honey. So I'm just going to eyeball it really. Just a teeny bit of honey, and then mix that in. This is going to give it that nice pretty shine. Okay, that is it. It's all mixed nicely. Now I'm going to check the temperature for this. Now if you're glazing something, whether it's cakes, whether it's eclairs, whether it's anything, the temperature you want is somewhere between 90 to 100 Fahrenheit, maximum 110, because then it can glaze properly. If it's hotter, it's going to just run down, and if it's colder, you're just going to get lumps everywhere. So a 90 Fahrenheit to 100 Fahrenheit is the ideal temperature. So I'm just going to measure this very quickly. So this is looking good, and I'm going to start glazing these cute little eclairs here. So all you're going to do is hold it like this, the bottom part on the top, sorry, and just dip it straight in. And how much ever chocolate you want, you know. Then let it drip a little bit, tilt it right away, and then using your finger, wipe off the excess. Now another good thing about having the glaze at the right temperature is, imagine if it's too hot and runny. What's going to happen is, when you put down your glaze, it's just going to start dripping from the side, which is not a pretty sight, right? So having things at correct temperatures is kind of really important. There you go. Look at the shiny, beautiful looking glaze. And I'm going to start putting these here. Then the next one. So all I'm doing is holding it like this, dipping it in, lifting it up, slanting it, using my fingers to wipe off the excess, and also make sure on the side it's not dripping, the excess is not dripping from anywhere, you know. Just wipe it, and there we go. Let's do another one. And suppose if you're doing this and your glaze starts to, thicken up, you can just put it in the microwave for 10 seconds to bring it back to the right consistency. So not to worry. And if you do have any glaze left, then of course you can put it in an airtight container and just keep it in the fridge and use it on your in your coffee. It's basically a ganache, so you can use it on anything, your cakes, with your cookies and anything. So now, usually when I'm doing this, I do like to have a towel on hand or a wet tissue or something, so you can keep cleaning your fingers, because you don't want your dirty fingers to be going on the other shoe. They're just going to make it a little messy. So always have something to clean your fingers. Finished glazing all the eclairs, and I'm going to let this sit for a while till the glaze on the top sets just a little bit, because it's still wet. And then once it is set, we are going to cut through one of them, and then we're going to taste this. They're not set 100%. I could give them longer if I wanted to, but honestly I don't want to wait. So I'm just going to cut one of them and we're going to taste it. I waited long enough. So let's see. Just pick any. Let's see if this one's lying in the front, and let's cut it first. Let's see. Look at that. It's beautifully filled, nicely hollow, and of course I can feel the weight that there is pastry cream in it. So this is how your shoe should look like when you cut into it. Properly, nicely filled. If it's not filled properly, then just put some more filling in there. So I'm going to taste this now. So good. It tastes absolutely delicious. Oh my god. I'm probably gonna take another bite. Sorry. this is mind-blowing. Oh my god. This is one thing I can't resist, you know. Usually I'm done after the tasting, but this thing, I doubt I'm going to be able to stop myself from eating this. So, now how do you store this? You can put them in an airtight container, and you know, you can keep them in the refrigerator for up to 5 days, and they start just getting a little soggy. So I wouldn't recommend storing them for too long. And the ganache, if you have any left, again put it in an airtight container and you can refrigerate it for up to 2 weeks. And if you have any pastry cream left, again put it in an airtight container and then refrigerate for up to 2 weeks. I wouldn't recommend freezing pastry cream. It doesn't freeze very well, so try to finish it within 2 weeks. That would be great. And you know, if you keep pastry cream in the fridge, it does harden up because of the butter and everything. Just keep it at room temperature for about 30 minutes and it should be usable again. Suppose you know you don't want to make this much choux pastry, so the amount that you're seeing here, I have another tray like this. So I've probably made, let's say, a few choux pastry, and each of them is about 4 inches long. I'm going to mention the ingredients and everything also in the description down below, and the pastry cream and the ganache that I will mention is exact for this much amount of recipe. If you want to make less, the recipe is pretty easy. You can half it or even 1/4 it. So that should be pretty easy. I will mention it in tablespoons and cups as well if you don't want to measure it. So that's it for the video. Please just do take a look at the description if you want the details of all the measurements, or if you missed anything out in the video, do check the description out. And I mean, I want to eat more of these, but I really can't, so I have to stop myself. Anyways, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for watching.